Hello, I'm Eric Friedman, Director of Montgomery County's Office of Consumer Protection. Welcome to another episode of Consumer Compass. Today, we're coming and going. First, OCP Investigator Lisa Brennan invites Tom Graham of Pepco to our offices to find out about the new smart meters that are being installed in homes throughout the county. Eric Coffman from the county's Department of Environmental Protection joins the conversation to discuss the environmental impacts.
Help consumers reduce their energy consumption.
Then, we'll take a trip to Baltimore to visit with Marceline White, the director of the Maryland Consumer Rights Coalition. This grassroots organization works to shape consumer laws at the state level.
What a lot of consumer advocates who've been working on these issues for years saw is that their voices weren't really being heard in Annapolis.
MCRC just released a new video called Stealing Trust, which we'll look at as well.
At this point in my life, I have trust issues. I don't trust people like I used to.
The contractors took from us a lot of our trust. I think that is one of the things my husband and I are having the hardest thing with. We should not, as a consumer, have to do a criminal background check on everyone who we come in dealing with in a business.
My name is Lisa Brennan. I'm an investigator here at the Office of Consumer Protection. One of my jobs is to advocate for the county before the Maryland Public Service Commission, the state agency that oversees our utility companies. Pepco delivers power to over 700,000 customers in D.C. and Maryland. As part of a new plan to improve customer service, system upgrades are in the works. That includes the installation of smart meters in residential homes and businesses. I recently met up with Tom Graham, Pepco Region President, and Eric Coffman from the county's Office of Environmental Protection to discuss what smart meters mean for you. Tom, what exactly is a smart meter or advanced metering infrastructure, and what does it do for residents of Montgomery County?
Essentially, a smart meter is just a device, a communication device, which is part of a larger infrastructure. And the larger infrastructure would include communications, would include something we call distribution automation. But I would say over the last 100 years, this will be the greatest innovation, the greatest transformation of the business, which you'll see the next 20 years. So that's why we're very excited about it. It will empower our customers to save energy. It will also help us on an operational basis be able to detect outages and bring back our customers earlier. So we're very excited about it.
I've been on the Public Service Commission's work group for these smart meters, and as such, I understand about that this relates not just to Maryland customers, but can you explain how this is going to involve the metro area and maybe even further out?
Well, this is a national effort. As President Obama discussed, smart meter rollout, AMI infrastructure rollout is going to take place all over the country. There was a lot of federal funding that was available. We were able to secure a lot of that money. So for the Pepco territory, it's about $150 million for AMI deployment across the board. 45 million of that was in the district. The other 105 million was in Maryland. But this is also very closely connected to Governor O'Malley's energy efficiency goals for the state as well. It's critical that this aspect of it is executed seamlessly. By 2015, there's supposed to be a 15% reduction in usage, also demand. The only way that we can get to that number is if those smart meters are in place. But it's just not here. It's taking place all over the country. In California, they're probably a little ahead of us on the rollout right now. We've been looking at smart grid and smart meters and AMI probably since 2007. We had introduced a concept called Blueprint for the Future, and the Blueprint for the Future included energy efficiency programs, which are now operating as Empower Maryland programs. There's an entire cadre of programs that are available. Information is on our website at pepco.com. But there's also a component in there that talked about smart meters. So when the federal money became available, that was really a positive signal for us to continue moving forward. And we were very successful in securing as much money that was available. So essentially took 50% of the cost out of the smart meters.
Can you explain the rollout of smart meters and what residents should expect to happen?
They can expect a letter anywhere from 1 to 4 weeks in advance of the smart meter being installed. When we come into the neighborhood, we'll knock on the door to let them know what we're doing.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good.
Pepco here. I'm going to install a new meter on your home.
Okay.
Okay, now if you have a computer on, you might want to turn that off.
I do. Can you hang on a second?
Sure.
Okay.
Power's going to go out for about a half a minute or so.
Half a minute? Okay, let me turn it off.
Sure.
And also there'll be a brief service interruption. There'll be either a Pepco meter technician, which will have an ID badge. There'll also be an ID badge for a company we use, the Scope Services. And if there's ever any question about who is that party at your door, then you can call us at 833-7500 and we can clarify that for you.
Like in 2 minutes it was done, and I turned off my computer and power's back up, and it was just so speedy. I'm hoping it'll be able to tell me before I have to make the phone call that the power's out. It'll tell Pepco the power's out, and they'll get moving on it very quickly. And it was just really speedy and make it more efficient to see where the power's out.
And what about businesses? Is there going to be a notification to businesses as well?
Businesses will be notified. The structure of the system would not require the business to take an outage. So I know that would be something of concern to them. So really the brief service interruption really applies to our residential customers.
What about condominium communities that may be on a master meter where there's one meter for 500 units? How's that going to work in notification and people knowing what's happening? And would they expect an outage to install the meter?
The same notification process. Whoever that customer of record is, we would be in contact with them. If it's a master meter, then it would be the responsibility of that building owner to notify the tenants of the building so that they know what's taking place.
What are the specific benefits after the smart meter is installed that consumers can expect to realize?
Right now we're just in the beginning stages. So I always describe it as crawl, walk, run. So basically right now we're at the crawl stage. All it is a meter exchange. Once we complete the full implementation, which will be sometime at the end of December of 2012, some of the early benefits might be the practical elimination of estimated meter reads, which would be a great benefit, which means you get a more accurate bill. Outage detection, our ability from home to make a determination whether a customer is out of service. So if you can imagine that if a tree were to hit a line at some point, and that would take out, let's say 1,100 customers. But because of the schemes and the distribution automation that's in place, you can reroute the service around that particular fault. So instead of a customer being out of service for, let's say, 4 hours, you could reroute the service in less than a minute. And so instead of 1,100 customers being out, now there's only 900 customers being out. We still have to go to that location, and we still have to do the repairs of that spot. But that doesn't mean all the customers on that particular circuit have to be out of service. There's also the ability to connect on the internet through a tool called My Account. Today, a meter is read once a month. In the future, that meter will be read, data will be transferred back and forth. about 6 times during the course of the day. That information can then be downloaded onto my account, which is the customer's personal account, and they can look at their energy data. Today, at the end of the month, you get a bill. Now, all that is passed already. In the future, if you're able to go into the system and you can make determinations at various points during the month of what your usage is, and then long term, there'll be compatible appliances within your home. And you can say, well, you know, kids, you left this TV on again, and I can tell because I see the little spike coming up. So you can balance the loads within your home.
Are there privacy or security issues with smart meters? And what about radio frequency signals that smart meters use?
We receive a lot of questions with respect to privacy. That information we would not release. It's a data exchange going back and forth between Pepco and the customer. It's not our intent to share the information. It's not our intent to sell the information. With respect to RF, you know, RF, I would say when you look at baby monitors or you look at cellular phones or cordless phones that are in your house, the RF levels are a little higher than they would be than this particular meter. This meter is really idle also for about 99% of the time. So every study that's been taking place has indicated there's no body of evidence that would relate the operation of similar signals to any type of adverse health conditions.
Pepco has a number of other programs under the Empower initiative to help consumers reduce their energy consumption. Could you tell us a little bit more about those programs and how consumers can access them?
We're launching initiatives right now, kind of in a partnership with the state of Maryland. So we have the Empower Maryland programs, and there's an entire cadre of programs that are available. Information is on our website at pepco.com. I would encourage every customer to make sure they get a home energy checkup first. And of course here in the great county of Montgomery, there's a real interest in renewables. So that's really the enabler for solar, that's the enabler for wind, and then somewhere down the road, it also opens the doors for electric vehicles as well. So that's another reason that we're so excited about it.
Tom, I want to thank you for talking with us today about smart meters, and Eric, of course, thank you for all of your work with Montgomery County's residents on energy programs.
The Smart Meter Program is one of several matters being handled by Maryland's Public Service Commission. The Public Service Commission is also responsible for approving rate increases and investigating the reliability of utility companies to deliver electric service. Pepco's performance has been a hot topic during the last few years, and in addition to Lisa's work on these issues, Montgomery County has retained the services of a special counsel to intervene in cases before the Public Service Commission to ensure that Montgomery County's concerns are heard. So next, we're taking a trip to Baltimore, so stay tuned.
There was a day when the villain was easy to spot. These days are different. One day, while shuffling through bills, John discovers something wonderful. A check for $3,000. I just won the International Lottery. I don't remember entering the International Lottery. He calls the lottery agent to verify the news. Hello? Hello? The lottery agent confirms John's good fortune. She tells John the process to claim his winnings is easy. International law requires a portion of the check to be wired back to the office immediately to pay the taxes on your winnings. After that, the rest of the prize money will be released to you. John deposits the check and then wires the money to the agent. John is happy. Too bad the lottery check wasn't real. Unfortunately, the money John wired was real. You work hard for your money. Don't let a few minutes with a scammer separate you from what's taken days, weeks, or even a lifetime to earn. Consumer Federation of America reminds you, you can't win a lottery that you've never entered. Winners pay taxes directly to the government. And remember, there is no legitimate reason why anyone who sends you money would ask you to send money anywhere in return. If that's the deal, it's a scam. You can protect yourself from fraud. Learn how at consumerfed.org/fake check scams.
we're going to go to a grassroots consumer organization, Maryland Consumer Rights Coalition, and interview their executive director. With this traffic, we probably won't get past Chevy Chase. Next stop, Baltimore. We can't be lost. We're Consumer Compass. Parallel parking. Grew up in New York City. Hello? We're looking for the Maryland Consumer Rights Coalition.
I am. Hi.
Hey,
How are you? Good to see you. Absolutely. Come on in.
Well, Marceline, thank you for giving us an opportunity to leave our boring government building in Rockville and come out here to visit you in Baltimore.
Well, we're happy to have you. Baltimore's happy to have you.
Can you tell us, what is the Maryland Consumer Rights Coalition?
Sure. Well, the Maryland Consumer Rights Coalition, or MCRC, is a statewide consumer advocacy group. And what we do is we work with elected officials in Annapolis and try to pass laws that help protect consumers, which really are all of us, but to make sure there are good rules and regulations to protect people from financial products that are predatory, high-cost loans, that sort of thing.
Now, I've been on the board of directors for a few years, but it's been around for a long time.
It has. It's been around since 2000, and really I think it was sort of brewing up and bubbling up before that. What a lot of consumer advocates who'd been working on these issues for years saw is that their voices weren't really being heard in Annapolis. You would go to Annapolis and try to pass legislation, and high-paid lobbyists were there representing their private interest and their business clients' interest, but there was really no one speaking about what was happening on the ground to folks all around the state. And so people decided to get together and form the Maryland Consumer Rights Coalition to really be the voice for Maryland consumers and to make sure there was a consistent presence talking about the impact of policies for people in their homes, their lives, their checking accounts. If there's no one talking about what the impact of these policies are for people where it counts in their pocketbook, the only voices they're hearing are those of highly paid lobbyists, and that's the only information they're receiving. So we really were formed to be a counterweight in some ways, to say you can do good work, you can be a good business, but you can also protect consumers, and those can go hand in hand. And we wanted to make sure that people knew, if they were passing a law, what it would really mean for people in their everyday lives.
So it sounds like lobbying is an important part of what MCRC does.
It's an important part, but it's a small part. I mean, we're really an organization that focuses both on research, education, and advocacy. So what we focus on is both getting the word out to consumers about what they can do proactively to avoid scams. We also have to do a lot of research for any legislation or policies to find out what's happening in our state, what other states are doing, and to find out how it affects people on the ground in Maryland. And we take that information and use that when we're talking to elected officials and when we're talking to the media and other people. So advocacy is important, but it's certainly not all we do.
So we're coming up on the 2012 legislative session in Annapolis. Can you give us an idea of how that process works?
During the 2012 session, which lasts from January through April, what you'll see is some people work during the fall to file bills ahead of time. So they work on legislation and they have it ready to go because Maryland has a 90-day session, so they try to pass a number of bills within those 90 days. And what happens is that the lobbyists will go down and work with legislators to try to introduce bills. The bills are heard at committees and then pass through the House and the Senate side. What we do is we also work with legislators to pass pro-consumer bills and to testify either for or against bills that we think would help or hurt consumers. So we will write up legislation and work with people to pass it. We will write testimony or provide facts about how policies would affect people. And then you spend a lot of time really trying to talk to as many people as you can who are elected officials to let them know, and also get the word out to people in their districts that these issues are important and they need to contact their legislators if they care about these issues.
Now in the session, there are loads of issues that come up. I'm guessing MCRC doesn't have the capacity to handle everything. How do you decide what issues to work on?
Unfortunately for us, we're in an economic situation right now where there are so many problems. And we really have to focus on what we think is achievable and what's going to impact the most people. And as you know, Eric, we talk to you, we talk to people at the county level with your Office of Consumer Affairs. We talk to people at Legal Aid to see what they're seeing from their clients, and with our other partners who are really working with consumers on the ground to see what problems they're seeing from the ground up. Talk to the Attorney General's office. And then we really look at what is going to have the most impact and where we can contribute the most. There are lots of great organizations throughout Maryland, and we want to focus on issues where we can have some expertise and we can take a leadership role and try to get something passed as well. So it's a process which takes us several months to try to really hone in on and figure out what we think is going to be achievable.
With so much going on, how would consumers in Maryland find out about what MCRC is doing?
Sure. Well, we have a lot of ways. We've been working very hard to try to figure out using new media and new ways to communicate with folks. Really, our mandate is both education, advocacy, and research. And so for the education pieces, people can read a guide we produced about auto brochure, about autos and how to buy a used car. Gives you lots of good information about what to do if you want to buy a car without getting taken for a ride. We have a brochure coming out about home improvement scams, and it's going to talk to you about what to do if you want to hire a contractor and everything you need to know to make sure that you have a good home improvement job as opposed to someone who's going to take your money and run. And we have a new film, and that film really documents the voices of people who've been affected by financial fraud and scams in Maryland, and tells the story of people who've faced foreclosure, debt settlement scams, and also home improvement contracting scams. And you can hear their real voices and also find out what kind of legislation passed that can help them. I think they can speak on their own behalf much better than I can, and I think it's really important to hear real stories from people who've had these things happen to them, and use it as a way also to talk to people about what they can do to avoid these kinds of problems.
I was desperately trying to hold on to my home and all of my belongings, my car, and most of all my credit and my integrity. I trusted these people, and they took all of that away from me. At this point in my life, I have trust issues. I don't trust people like I used to.
The contractors took from us a lot of our trust. I think that is one of the things my husband and I are having the hardest thing with. We should not, as a consumer, have to do a criminal background check on everyone who we come in dealing with in a business.
I've lost a lot of trust in the state's ability to regulate.
Every day I regret that. I regret it every day because it took something from me. And I just don't trust people.
I think the title of the film is very appropriate, Stealing Trust, because it seems like the trust is the underpinning of every consumer transaction.
Absolutely, and I think, 20, 30 years ago, it was not unreasonable to think that your local banker would make a little bit of a profit, but would basically be having your best interest at heart. And your mortgage transaction would be a very simple mortgage transaction. You qualified, you filled out paperwork, and you had no reason to believe that they weren't going to make some profit, but in fact were looking out for your interest. Of course, in recent years, we've seen that entire theory go horribly awry, where people trusted individuals and didn't realize that they were making money by intentionally peddling products that were unsustainable.
Don't let these people prey on others and continue to take them down. This is not the right thing to do. I mean, we try to teach our kids right from wrong. This is absolutely wrong.
I guess in being a nonprofit organization located in Baltimore, you've probably seen foreclosures all around you.
Absolutely. I think they just had an article last week that there's a shadow inventory of more than 50,000 properties in Baltimore that are going to be foreclosed upon. And if you look at the numbers, there are certainly hot spots throughout Maryland. Prince George's County is a hot spot where there's a number of foreclosures. We see, I think Carroll County is another place. And I think it's really important to recognize that for many people, they certainly didn't understand the product, but there were people who were intentionally selling this product because they were making a bundle of money off of it and then not taking any risks because they were selling it to someone else. And what we really want to do is look at foreclosures again. It'll be an issue in 2012, and trying to determine what else Maryland can do to keep people in their homes.
Now, you have a strong background in working with nonprofit organizations, but MCRC really is unique in terms of representing consumers as a generic grassroots organization.
Absolutely, and I think it's really exciting, and I think it's particularly important at this time because, again, with the recession, we've seen so many people who are literally, a paycheck, a death in the family, a medical emergency away from poverty. People who've been middle class, done, and one thing can go wrong, and they're, in poverty essentially. And I think it's really important to have voices for those folks, as well as people who've always been a little vulnerable to these kinds of scams, and have somebody articulating those issues to policymakers to really understand, because a lot of times people don't understand the impact of the decisions or the policies they'd be making unless there's a voice there consistently representing what's going to happen on the ground and what the impact will be. So I think it's important to have these kinds of consumer organizations. I think particularly now they serve a really important purpose, whether you're looking at debt, housing, electricity, which has skyrocketed, utilities, whatever the kinds of issues you're looking at. There need to be people who are talking to elected officials about what that really means for their constituents, and activating the constituents to get back in touch with the elected officials. And we play that role. We're a little bit of a catalyst.
You can't talk about a nonprofit organization without worrying about funding. How does MCRC pay its bills?
Sure. Well, we rely on foundation grants, and we've been very grateful to get more support from a variety of foundations. We also get some support from unrestricted grants, and certainly both major donors and people who just give $25. So there's a variety of ways that people can give and also get involved. We have a Facebook site, we have a website, and people can go on there either to donate, but also just to sign up and get alerts about issues that are coming up, ways they can get involved, who to contact to help with the problem, what their officials are doing on these issues, so they can see how their officials are voting and what their officials are doing.
Now, I noticed MCRC enhanced its webpage, and you actually have a report card for state senators and delegates to rank them.
Well, I think it's important for people to know what goes on in Annapolis, and it's hard. There's so much happening in the 90-day span that the report card is really a way to look at who voted for consumer issues and who didn't. And people want that information. Did your representative vote to support utilities? Make them affordable? Did they work to support and make sure that people could stay in their homes or not? And not only what did they do at the end of the day, but what did they do in the process? Because a lot of work happens within the committees themselves. So we're trying to document both what happened in committees and on the floor of the House, so you can really see who's working to protect consumers and who isn't. And I think that's important for people to know as they go to the ballot box.
And do you think the elected officials are really looking to MCRC more and more for advice and counsel?
Well, I certainly hope so. And I think one of the things that we have seen is we've been called on to be on more commissions. We're on the Maryland Foreclosure Task Force. I sat on a task force on debt settlement. And so I think they are looking to us for advice, and they also are recognizing that we're trying to get the word out more and educate consumers, which they appreciate. And we're also trying to motivate consumers to pick up the phone and call if they see something that's wrong, if they want to tell their elected official what they think is the right policy as well. So we've been grateful that people are listening to us, and hope to make sure we can get real stories in front of them so they can really understand the impact of the decisions they make. Because it's not just a policy for people, it's money in their bank account, it's a home. It's the policies have real impact for people on the ground, and we want to make sure that that impact is understood.
Well, thank you for letting us see the film and learning more about MCRC.
Thank you so much, and we're delighted. Love to hear what you think about the film, and certainly it's available. People can get it on our website. They can see snippets, or if they even want to get it and do home screenings with friends and family, that's something we'd love to support that, as well as go out around the rest of the state and talk to people about it, do more screenings.
So if you need more information about these topics or any other consumer issue, please visit OCP's webpage at montgomerycountymd.gov/consumer. That's it for this show. I'm Eric Friedman. Thanks for watching.